Hello and welcome to Stillness in Success. I'm your host, Mustafa Nuristani. And today I have an incredibly special guest, a one of a kind, you could say. And before I introduce my guest, I want to remind you to please subscribe and share this episode with your family and friends. But now let's go straight into talking about my wonderful guest. Now, they are the first or maybe the only principal of a school which is a consciousness-based education school. It's a really long word, and we're going to come to understand what that really means. But the fact that she is the only one in the whole of Australia, and I'm able to speak to her today, is a really exciting opportunity for me. So please welcome Sonia Culcasi. Hi, Sonia.
Hi, Mustafa. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Thanks
it's
for
nice to have you on the program. Thank you for making time.
Thanks for having
me. I know
me.
you're so busy, and I had to pull you into the studio, and
Schools
thank you
are
for
a busy
coming.
place, but very happy to be here. It's a great opportunity.
Great. So,
thank you.
Now, I want to start with first. We just mentioned that you are the only principal of the only school that teaches consciousness-based education in Australia. It's not the only school in the whole world, but it's the one in Australia. So tell us about what is consciousness-based education and how does one become a principal of this school?
Consciousness-based education is an approach that Maharishi Mahesh Yogi founded himself many years ago, which is an education system that's looking at the whole child. And as a part of that, the kids learn transcendental meditation, and they learn that from the minute they start, as do at least one of their parents. So because they learn that meditation technique, they start to enliven their brains and start to eliminate some of just the daily kind of stresses that little people have. And this really beautiful, simple, effortless technique is what's founded on consciousness-based education. We do a number of different principles throughout our curriculum, and they're called the Science of Creative Intelligence. And every 2 weeks as a school, we kind of explore one of those principles, which just is a nice little flow for life. Like one of our principles is the nature of life is to grow. And it's a really lovely way for kids to kind of think of how it is that they develop, how it is that they grow over their life. And even though it might be a principle they revisit year and year again, there's always something new that they take away from it. So the Science of Creative Intelligence is kind of embedded within a regular Australian curriculum, a regular Victorian curriculum. So we are an independent school, but follows the Victorian curriculum. But it comes with that different lens where the kids are looking at the whole world and looking at how they can be the best versions of themselves in that particular space.
That's so beautiful. It's so nice to be able to give the kids a technique that, adults are using for stress relief and, better relationships, greater clarity, more focus. But little people also need to have that connectedness with themselves and to be able to express themselves in a more eloquent way, which is probably some of the things that you experience, huh?
Absolutely. The kids, they're confident, they're creative, and sometimes they don't even realise it within themselves, but they have that real strong sense of who they are. And so they're clear in their decisions, they're clear in their expressions because they're coming from within. And it's a small school, but because they've had years of nurturing their inner self and being part of a collective group and everyone coming from the same perspective, when they leave, they know exactly who they are. So even though it's a small school and they're going into a big wide world, they've got a really strong sense of self, a really strong sense of connection with the world around them, with their peers, with their families, and they have that tool that they have for the rest of their life to help them with all of those external factors that can be a bit challenging at times.
It's just insane for families, with young kids to juggle all of the, stresses of the world, stresses of work, relationships, and then to also pay enough attention to their child so they can let the child flourish and be their authentic self. Because we know that every child is special because they're unique.
Yep.
It's not that they're special because mom and dad thinks that they're special. It's just that they're special because they're unique.
Yep.
And in their contribution to the whole society, they're going to be unique. And so as a parent, I'm a parent of a 7 and a 5-year-old. What I want to see is I want my child to feel confident in themselves and not be a victim of the factors that are in the schoolyards, in the playground, where people are feeling bullied or like that. Do you have kids that feel bullied at the school? Or
I think it's, every child comes with their own little challenges and everyone is working through that. But the beautiful thing about the Maharishi School is that everyone acknowledges and knows that everyone is uniquely them. And so even though there may be some different conversations at times and things that need to be sorted through, because that's the reality of putting people together, is that it's not always going to be
that won't be normal.
That's right. But it's the way that it's kind of managed, the way that it's resolved, and the fact that they're happy to have those conversations and accept that people are uniquely them. And that's a really important part of any kind of growing up, is giving the students and the kids tools to help them become a little bit more resilient, to have the conversations, to know how they feel and to be able to express that. And I suppose that's one of the things about the Maharishi School, is that there's a lot of work on inner and outer, and the way that, that external environment also affects your internal space and vice versa. And so even though someone might be a bit outward with how they're reacting, there's something else going on in the inside, and we can acknowledge that and we can accept that and we can work through that. So that's, I think, a really important difference between our school and lots of other schools, is that they've got the tools to be able to talk through things, which is important.
The other thing
it's a skill to learn, isn't
Sonia,
it?
yes, this ability to meditate together. What I have seen with my students, especially when we are in like a big group setting or when we are on a retreat, where I take people on a retreat and like that. And you have all these different personalities, different people. From different walks of life, different experiences, different traumas, everything is different. But as soon as they come into this group and we just meditate, and this meditation creates such unity that all of a sudden everyone's differences are a joy. It's not a source of frustration or them and me and like this person is like this and I'm not like, no, it's like this person is like this and that's amazing. And this person.
You can imagine being able to do that every single day, in the morning and the afternoon, with kids.
Exactly.
It's a really, unique opportunity that they have. And although the meditation is different between the different age groups, there is still that sense of belonging. Because you're meditating together, and as a school, everyone's meditating at the same time. The younger students go off to their classrooms and they do their walking technique, and then the older students go into the meditation hall and they do their adult technique. And that's twice a day that the school is calm and settled, and that opportunity to connect as a group with their meditation.
Beautiful. So you said something that the younger kids do their walking technique and then the older kids do their adult technique. So what's the difference? What does that mean?
The younger students learn a word of wisdom.
How old?
From the minute they start the school. So from prep, so they're essentially 5 or 6 years of age, and they learn their word of wisdom, which is an open-eyed walking technique. And as a class, they'll do that for 5 minutes every morning and then every afternoon. And that is from the age 5, when they start school, up until the age of 10. And then in the last 2 years of their schooling, they will learn the adult technique, which is just essentially sitting down with the eyes closed. And they do that for 10 minutes every morning and every afternoon in our designated meditation hall, which is just where our older students and of course adults will go to meditate on the weekend. So it's a different technique, but obviously it's still transcendental meditation. It's just different nervous systems are experiencing different things.
Yes.
And, you know, for a little person to sit down and close their eyes is quite a challenge. But to walk around and to meditate is something
Sonia.
that they're able to release all of that. So they're the two different techniques.
That's the beautiful thing about Maharishi's technologies of consciousness, which transcendental meditation is one of those. And that is that we know that children from the age of 5 to 10, their brain is developing. And so they need to be engaged with the outside world to make sense of the world. And then this walking technique is allowing them to be engaged in the world, but also have that settled awareness.
Correct.
So that integration of outside and inside is much more smooth. And then they have this sense of self, of this is the outside, but this is me. And that together creates an integrated individual.
Correct.
And like you said, you know, I've had a lot of parents who come to me and they say, I want my child to meditate. Like, I need them to meditate because they're all over the place. They're not able to focus. They've got ADHD. And, you know, the whole thing is just not good. But I can't get them to come because they say they hate meditation. And then when I inquire deeply, okay, what do you mean? When did they learn to meditate? What do they do? And they say that they learned some mindfulness technique at the school where they were told to close your eyes, sit, be quiet. And I always say it's good for the teacher when the students can all sit and close their eyes and be quiet. But when it comes to this child's brain development, it creates dullness. It creates disintegration. And the brain that is ready to be absorbing is now told to shut down. And that's why the kid is like, I don't want to do this. Innately, they feel, I don't want to do this. But then when the children come and I say, okay, so don't tell them they're going to meditate. Just tell them they're going to learn a technique for creativity. And so then the whole thing just turns around. They come and they love their technique. They absolutely, like the kids that I have taught, they love their meditation. You know, parents, they're like, now I sit with my boys, and I recently had dad who came and learned TM with his 11-year-old and 13-year-old. And they're like, they just do it as a group thing. They do it in the morning, and then they go and have their breakfast, and then he comes home from work, and then they come from school, and then they sit and they do it. And what he said is like, we are all so connected now. You know, the boys understand where I'm coming from. And I also have a good appreciation of what their needs are. Because everyone is coming from that level of silence.
And we have, at least one of our parents needs to be able to practice the meditation as well, so that there is that understanding, and it can be connections at home as well. And we offer a parent meditation group every Friday morning, so that parents also then have that opportunity to connect with the school community and with each other whilst they're doing their meditation. So it's an important thing to make sure that it's a technique that the whole family can use together. And then there's that point of understanding of the benefits of it, and you know, and saying, let's just go and have our 10 minutes, off we go, and everyone, you know, can do that at home. It's really special.
It is so special. I mean, I'm addicted to TM, but let's talk about some other things. That you haven't always been the principal of this school. You were a science teacher at school, and like, I'm a teacher's pet by nature. I just can't help myself. I just want to please my teachers, because from a young age, you know, in the East, we have this built in our culture in Afghanistan that the teacher is your guide in your life. And so you better respect your teacher, if not equal to your parents, more than your parents, because the teacher will teach you the right thing. And so that's been ingrained in Afghanistan. You know, we have a teacher's day where the teacher doesn't do anything. We like put them up, and then everyone brings food and presents for the teacher. And
do you know that we do an acknowledgement around the world for World Teachers' Day, and it's actually being recognised and celebrated in Australia tomorrow.
Congratulations!
On the 31st of October is World Teachers' Day here in Australia. So every school will be doing something to celebrate and recognise teachers.
It's about time we do recognise the teachers. I mean, this thing has been going on for 5,000 years in Afghanistan, where, we understand. And, in the East, it's always the teacher or the guru, the master that teaches you. And so that's been an ingrained thing in my life. And so when I heard that you're a teacher, I was like, oh, God, my science teacher. I remember my science teacher, Miss Sylvendra. Hi, if you're listening. She was so wonderful, my chemistry teacher. And oh, God. Anyway, so you were a school teacher, and then you wanted to do a bit of a flip. And you went
Actually really interesting, Mustafa, because I was a science teacher for 20 years in a government high school, and it was a really large school. But I'd always been kind of connected with the Maharishi Primary School because my nephews attended the primary school. So I was the auntie who would go to, assemblies and award ceremonies and performances, and I would listen to all of the talk about consciousness-based education, and I would sit there and think, how can I bring this into the secondary system? How can I make this work? And I went off and became a yoga teacher. I did a yoga teacher training about 10 years ago and started to teach yoga within the school, but there were lots of kind of barriers that were coming up. I couldn't do it on this day because there were meetings and students had work commitments, and I kept pushing and pushing to try to do things, but the barriers were up. But 3 years ago, I actually had my brother-in-law say to me, Sonia, the position of principal has come up at the primary school. You should apply for it. And it was end of term 3, so reports, and very challenging term 3 in the education system. And my initial response was, no. I'm a secondary teacher, not a primary teacher. I'm a science teacher, not a generalist. I put up all of these barriers. And he sent me the link, and I wrote back and said, thank you. And I didn't even look at it. But it sat with me. And it's funny how nature supports. I was on holidays, and it just was there. And I hadn't had a conversation with anyone about this particular opportunity. And as I was at the airport flying home, I'd said to my friend, my brother-in-law and my sister have sent me this job application. And she just looked at me and said, you need to do it. And I said, really? And so the next day was the start of term 4, and I spoke to a trusted colleague, and then I spoke to my sister, and the job was still live at that particular point in terms of the application. And I talked through a number of things with the relevant stakeholders because it wasn't just about me, it was about others as well. And then I went for a tour at the school and I put in my application. And I went through the process. It was quite a rigorous process that I needed to go through as well. But as a part of that, I learnt TM.
Beautiful.
And this is actually my 3-year anniversary of learning TM. So my kind of involvement with the school stems back 14 years ago. But in terms of actively going for the principal role, that was only 3 years ago that I applied for that. And was very privileged to be offered that position.
You know, everything happens for a perfect reason. There is no mistake. And that's why we think, this is happening. But in reality, everything is happening in just this perfect sequence.
Yeah.
Now, what was your first experience of transcendental meditation like?
It was probably one of the most, I'm going to say, calming and quiet experiences. I've done lots of different types of meditation, obviously, as a part of my yoga training, but there was just this real calmness and settledness that I felt after I'd had that first experience and thought, this is so easy. This is not like anything else that I've kind of experienced before. So it was quite unique. Absolutely.
Yes, and the effects of it afterwards, what did you think of that?
It was interesting because, as I said, it was 3 years ago that I learned, and there was a lot of things happening. I was applying for a job. I'd just been reappointed in a leadership role. I was examining Year 12 biology papers, and there were lots of things that I was doing, and found it incredible that I could do all of these things, that I had enough kind of time in the day to be able to do all of those things and to do them well. So I kind of noticed that I was becoming a little bit more efficient, and clearer and a little bit more purposeful with what I was doing, because I'd started to learn the technique and I could see the benefits in my outside activity, I suppose.
Yeah, that's what Maharishi says, the purpose of life is expansion of happiness. And if we are doing a lot of things, the thing that we usually miss out on is the connection with the self. And the connection with the self is the only connection that is so precious, that continuously gives us this ability to maintain that inner happiness on the surface of doing all of these things. And so if we are busy and we don't have the connection, then we're just busy and life is just going past. And this is why people, come to retirement and they've got a lot of diseases in their physiology, a lot of ailments, a lot of broken relationships, because they just were not able to be present. And this thing that you said, that you were more purposeful, which is another way of saying you were present in your work, where you were just focusing on that. And that was allowing you to get it done quickly.
Correct. It was amazing. For me, it was just to think that all of these things were happening in my life at that particular point in time. And as you said, it's nature supporting and everything is there for a particular reason. But it just kind of made me reflect that, there's more to it than all of that external. I need to be able to connect with myself to be able to then do all of these things and pass on my knowledge and share, my school skills and my principal skills and just my connection. And I need to have that within before I can really offer it to the external environment.
Beautiful. So what has been your favorite part of teaching a student? Can you tell us a quick story about a transformation that you've seen? Because you would have taught TM to your school students.
Well, I've only just graduated as a TM teacher myself. So I've had 3 years an accelerated kind of journey, because as I said, I just learnt TM 3 years ago. But I was...
And like everyone should know that it's not just you can do like a 3-month course and become a teacher of transcendental meditation. It's a 2-year process.
Yeah. And I was part of the pioneering group of school teachers who are part of that teacher training course. There were 5 of us that have spent, as you said, over 18 months learning all of the material whilst still working full time, and spending some time overseas to be able to consolidate that and to have that deep practice. And so it's only this year that I've started teaching the students, and I have taught all of the younger students at the school their word of wisdom, which is really very sweet, because I will check in with them kind of regularly to make sure that they're all okay, and ask them, are you all good? And they've gone, of course I'm good. So there's just this, every time I say to them, I want to just check how you're going. Are you happy to talk to me? Absolutely. There's just this light in them when you're pulling them out to check on their meditation. There's just this real joy, and the older students always kind of reflect that they can do more. They feel calmer, a little bit more kind of settled. They definitely feel their creativity is enhanced. And so they're the stories that you just kind of hear when you're talking to them one-on-one, but I see it all the time at school in terms of their interactions with their peers, and how they express themselves in their writing or in their drawings. So I see it from a different kind of perspective. They just kind of go, yeah, I feel good afterwards.
Yes.
It's kind of what they say.
Because it's natural.
Yeah, absolutely.
And feeling good is a natural experience. And so, they're just expressing how they're feeling, which is what we want them to feel. We want the kids to just feel good. Like, how are you feeling? I feel good.
Yeah.
And that's enough.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to be like over the top and I'm like, I feel amazing and I feel like, that's not
right.
normal.
No, that's right.
What's normal is I feel good. And you're like, good, that's great.
Yep. It's doing what it needs to do.
Perfect. Sonia, thank you so much for taking the time to come and speak with us.
Thank you for having me.
I wish we had another hour so we could go deeper into your other experiences that you've been, experiencing in your life. But maybe another time we'll get you to come.
No, I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, Mustafa.
That's my pleasure. Great. Thank you. And thank you for your company. This has been a wonderful session where we spoke with the principal of Maharishi School in Melbourne, Australia. And next week we'll be back with another special guest. Until then, have a great week and make sure you share and like this episode. Take care. Thanks.